Hello, in this Steam Deck video I'm going to show you how to set up EmuDeck. So, EmuDeck. So it's an emulation software that allows you to set up a bunch of other emulators really easy. So I've done a bunch of videos on how to set up, PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, Wii U, Xbox emulators, and I'm planning on doing others as well as, for the separate emulators. But instead of following all of them, you can literally just follow this one video and get all of those emulators set up for you, and it does it really well in a nice package, and the games are very accessible, and a bunch of other benefits as well. So this is EmuDeck. So just want to say this video does not condone piracy. It is for educational purposes. I always recommend that the console that you are emulating, be it PS3, Wii U, whatever, you legally own it, you have a legal copy of the games as well, etc, etc. But yes, okay, so the first thing you want to do is, because this is going to be a full comprehensive guide, first of all switch to desktop mode. If you've never done that, press the Steam button on the left, go to power and go to switch to desktop. So this is like a traditional computer desktop mode, and sometimes it takes a few seconds for the right trackpad to kick in as the mouse move. It's working now, and there's a few ways to interact with this. You can interact with your finger. Most of the time you won't want to do that. You can move the mouse with the right trackpad, which is one of the recommended ways, and you can also see I'm clicking and dragging. You can also click, so the left mouse click with the right trackpad. You can also do the the left click with the right bumper. It can be a bit confusing because it's flipped. Or you can also use the left bumper, and that's the right mouse button, and that's good for copying files, moving files, that sort of stuff. And I'm going to do a bit of focusing. Okay, so now from here, what you want to do is open up Firefox. If it doesn't appear there, you just launch it up from here. You can always search. So I'm going to launch up Firefox. Okay, and I've already literally got it open, but you can Google it, or you can just go straight to the website. You want to go to EmuDeck.com. You want to go over to here, go to download. You'll scroll you down. Let me focus a bit on there. There we go. Click download installer. And this is an important note. Copy the installer to your desktop and then execute it by double clicking on it. Again, which we're all going to do. So it's downloaded. And in here you can either just drag it like so if you want to, or you can just right click it using the left bumper, or L2 or left trigger if you're an Xbox gamer, and press copy, go to desktop, right click using the left bumper, paste one file. I'm not going to do it because I've already got it, literally got the same file already here, but that's all you need to do. Now if you just double click this, again I just use the right bumper, I just pressed it pretty fast. You can use the trackpad or double click it on the screen. Okay, so every time you launch it up, you'll try and find the update. If it's found it, I'll find most of the time it just wants to do the process again anyway. But this is the process that you will get. It says for me, it's updating it, but in terms of the new installation, it'll look the same. You can do a quick update, which is super simple. We'll be doing custom, so we can basically customize a lot of the features, and this is really cool. So click custom, go to continue. Now from here, you choose where you want to store your ROM. So you can either do internal storage, and that will automatically store it where it sees best. You can do custom directory if you want it in a specific folder, or SD card. I recommend SD card because you can have all your games, etc. there. So that's what I've got. And a little tip, and this is just a general tip when you're using an SD card on your Steam Deck, and it's put into your Steam Deck, format it on your Steam Deck. Because if you try and format it on another device, it may initially work, some things won't. So if you've put it in and you formatted it, that's fine. I've got a separate video covering that. I'll provide a link in the description. It's just an SD card setup video. So again, we're just going to click continue down here, and select your device. Obviously we're on Steam Deck, so we're just gonna keep Steam Deck selected, but make sure you do select Steam Deck. Go to continue. Okay, so we can select the emulators now. I've selected all of them previously, so they're all here again. But for you, it might not have all of them highlighted like PCSX2, but make sure you highlight everything that you want to do. We select them in. I've selected everyone, which is pretty cool. And as you can see, there's a lot here. You got Dolphin for Wii, PPSSPP for PSP, PS1, I think that's 3DS, Citra is PS2, PS3, Switch. There's another Switch one here, that's Xbox, Wii U, PS Vita, and a few that I can't quite remember. Click continue. 1 second. Update emulator configuration. You may not get that because obviously I'm just doing an update, but again the rest will be the same. So you'll get this. So configure autosave. So for these systems, Atari, Game Boy and Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, Super Nintendo, Nintendo NES, Master System, Genesis, Sega CD, Sega 32X, Game Gear, Neo Geo Pocket, you can turn it on so it automatically saves when you exit, which is useful, but I'm going to leave it as off. I'm happy as off. You know what? I'll put it on. Why the hell not? And you can do configure your retro achievements. And to do that, just go to retroachievements.org. Just do it on your laptop or your phone or your computer. Create an account and you can log in on here. And this is great because you can get achievements on a bunch of different consoles. And it's a cool feature. Adds achievements to old classic games. And now configure game bezels. So if I click on, for these consoles, you'll make it look more like a console itself. I prefer just black bars personally, but feel free to go for it. And okay, so you can choose for your classic Sega games. So I think he's taking you through all of the different systems, and all these systems: Master System, Genesis, Sega CD, Sega 32X. You can keep original or you can stretch it. As a general rule of thumb, I like to keep original or have some sort of widescreen hack. And here you can either go to the real SNES resolution, the default resolution, which I believe was what was displayed, and the 3x2, which ain't recommended. I want to go for the real one. Again, let's keep it as legit as possible. You can go to original aspect ratio, or you can use full screen, which uses a widescreen hack. Again, I prefer the widescreen ones when I have the option. Again, same with GameCube. It's not stretching it, it's just expanding the camera so you can have more of the game visible. And you can have an LCD shader so it looks more like the old LCD matrix screens. I'm going to keep those off. You can change it afterwards as well. And again, similar for this CRT shader, and similar for this one, you can notice it more. So you've got like the scan lines, which are pretty cool to be fair. Okay, so now you just choose your emulation station theme. So Epic Noir, RB Simple, or Modern. Keep it as Epic Noir, click Next. And you want to install some homebrew games, which aren't like commercial games or any game that you would buy from the store. So from the homebrew community. The Grinch goes happy if you do. I'll keep it as no, but feel free to do that. And we are completing your installation. So if you are doing this for the first time, it may take a few moments, and that's perfectly fine. Just be patient with it, and yeah, just be patient and it'll be done. So I'm just gonna skip this part and you'll see once it's done. Okay, as you can see, installation is now complete. So this is just telling you how to, add games. It's got some other tips as well. If you swipe, it talks about tools, emulation folders, which is, pretty darn cool. So in the emulation folder, which will be where you selected, your installation to install, there'll be a ROM folder for your games, and within there'll be folders for all the different consoles. There'll be a BIOS folder for all your BIOS and your firmwares. You have a save folder for your save games, and you have a storage folder for shaders, PS3 install games, etc. to save space in your internal storage, and some BIOS paths as well. And again, a few other cool things, but I'm going to explain all of this now. So I'm going to launch the Steam, if you can see it, Steam ROM Manager. And when that comes up, exit Steam 2. Yep, we want to do that. Click yes. Okay, so from here, let me explain a few things. So on the right, we've got a bunch of passes, and if we was to scroll down, we get all the different consoles. I recommend highly that you disable all of these. So you go to the passes section, click this, and disable it, and just enable Emulation Station DE and the emulators. And the reason for this is, so if you enable all those other emulators, and let's say you have 1,000 games spread across those emulators, which is more than possible when you've got old systems like NES, SNES, Game Boy Advance, you can easily start, racking up the, ROMs. Obviously with PS2, PS1, PS3, not so much, but those older systems, hell yeah, you can, because they don't take up much space. And for collectors, it's like a dream. But the problem is, if you enable each console in the regular Steam menu where all your other, regular Steam games are, each game will appear there. Trust me, it's not what you want to do. If you just enable emulators, what that does is it just puts the emulator icon there. So you'll have the icon for the PS3 emulator, for the PS2 emulator, and then you can just go in there and then choose, the game that you want. And the Emulation Station DE is just that other interface that you could go into. So outside of the Steam interface, you can go into it, and that's just your emulated game. So that's just something to bear in mind. And just go down here, click save, very important. I've had these issues, I find it still saves it and it's all good, to be fair. Okay, the last thing you want to do is go to preview, and you need to generate app list. But before we do that, we need to do one more thing. I need to just show you where you put all your games and everything. Let me maximize this. Let's go to, so again, I've installed it on my micro SD card. Highly recommend it. And if you go to the, ignore all the other folders here. These are from other projects that I've got going on that I've installed them. But what you want to look at is the emulation folder. That's what that EmuDeck has installed. So if you go into BIOS, this is where you put all your BIOS files. So for something like Citra, which is 3DS, Regions, which is like Switch, user Switch, you put the actual, keys or firmware inside of here. Obviously yours won't quite look the same because naturally yours won't have some of the stuff that I've already added. But any emulators that don't have a folder automatically created, just put the BIOS files right in the folder right here. And again, remember, you can use the left bumper to paste, copy, that sort of stuff. Okay, so I've got a bunch of PS1 and PS2 BIOSes. Next, I want to show you where to put your games. You go to ROMs, and you have all the different emulators, or the different consoles, I should say. So it's not by emulator name, it's by console name. Just bear that in mind. So if we go to, say, PS1, which is PSX, if you remember, the PSX name, and then I've got my games, Crash Bandicoot in there. That's all I've added so far. In PS2, I've got a lot more. There we go. And I've got some in PS3 as well, right here. And that's it. So those are the main folders. Again, you get the HD pack saves where everything will be saved, and it's nicely organized. Storage tools, but that's the main thing that you need to know. And okay, so let's reopen this. So go to preview, and you want to click generate app list. You want to do that, when you add new games and whatnot. There we go. So we've got all the stuff that's loaded. You might be thinking, where's everything else? Why is it only loaded Emulation Station and CEMU? I found a little bug in here, as of the version that I'm using, that unless you maximize it, the rest don't appear. Now the rest will appear, as you can see. Otherwise, it can get a bit confusing. If you was to, let me just briefly show you. If you was to select, an emulator, so I'm gonna select PlayStation, and there's different like cores to enable it. Generate app list. As you can see, the game Crash Bandicoot and any other game ROMs will appear here. This is pretty cool. If you hover over any of the emulators or the games, you can change its thumbnail, which is pretty darn cool. And you can also download that if you want to. And if you click this button, you can actually select your own custom one if you want to. But again, like I said, I do not want that, and I only purely want the emulators. Other than that, we're all good to go. So just like I said, make sure you have all these disabled, otherwise it's just gonna look messy. Now we can close this down, and now we can go back to gaming mode. So if you go to here, return to gaming mode, double click it, and what I will say, because we're dealing with emulators and emulation content, a lot of it is very stable, but as always, things crash. Don't be worried. If your Steam Deck crashes, you need to reboot. You probably automatically reboot. You need to restart the game. That's fine. Most of the time, nothing's particularly wrong with your setup. It's just one of those things, because I have it all set up properly. Sometimes it crashes for me. So click the Steam button. Go to library. Now, there's a few new sections. So if we go to collections, go to emulation, got all the emulation folders here, and the emulation station. And if you go to non-Steam, they appear here as well. So obviously, if you go to collection, it's only the ones from EmuDeck. And let's say if I was to go to Duck Station, which is a PlayStation 1 emulator, and I can click play. We can use as you can see, the D-pad, and I can go to stuff like settings, and I can use the L1 and R2 equivalent on here, the bumpers, to go through the different settings, and I can change all sorts of settings. I can change the internal resolution, which is pretty cool. I personally like to put it on automatic based on window size. So that way, based on the window size, it does what's best to get the best looking result, because it gets to a point where if you just do it higher than that, you won't actually get any difference. And so there's a bunch of settings here. Feel free to mess around with them. But yeah, you can enable achievements as well. If you need to sign back in, you can do. So I could start a file. Game list, as you see the games here. Have I enabled stretching? It's looking like it. I'll have to deal with that afterwards. It'll just be in the the emulator settings. My bad. This is such a badass game. Yeah, it's tried to do widescreen, but it's not the best. Again, you know, we can disable that. So okay, so press Steam. We can just quit out of it, you know, this particular emulator, which I know is for PS1. Obviously, if you have any questions, which emulator pertains to which console, feel free to ask. And I mean, that's it for here. If we go to Emulation Station, click play. This is just the, you know, the noir theme, which is pretty cool, as you can see. Says 2, but it's just 2 different files. Got a bunch again for Wii U, Wii, Switch, Xbox. I do quite like this interface, if I'm being honest, as well. So anything else that's not here you might need, you know, firmwares and whatnot for. So obviously feel free to add them. And in the menu you can, you know, change the UI settings, sound, game collection settings. Feel free to do that. I'm gonna quit this. I want to go back to desktop. There's one last thing I want to show you. So I wanted to show you everything that was required to really just get up and running. Now I want to show you just a couple of extras. So if you go to EmuDeck, and obviously just going through all this setup again, you can just click straight to the tools and stuff. Down here, let me focus in on it, tools and stuff, and here we got a bunch of stuff. So if you go to Power Tools, so just put your sudo password in, you know, your super user, do password the password for your, you know, console. And this is pretty cool because you can install Power Tools. I've got a separate video on installing it, but you can do it directly inside of this, which is again great. And there's a lot of cool features, like, you know, you can disable the number of, you know, threads that are running on your CPU and have higher clock speeds, better for some, you know, consoles, I think like Wii and GameCube. Do gyro DSU, so you can use the gyroscope for your Wii U games. For Decky controls, this is just a, you know, plugin that you can see all the controls and, you know, hotkeys while you're gaming. Again, useful thing. Feel free to set it up. You can update the emulators and tools if you best to do this on a, you know, periodic basis, maybe every few weeks, every month or so. And update flat packs and update app images. Just do each one, just because some are installed using one or the other. And if we go to quick settings, those are those settings that we set before, remember. You can click check BIOS, and it checks the BIOS file, so we know that Sega CD, Saturn BIOS and Nintendo DS are missing, and they're missing because I have not added them, whereas the others are there fine, which is good. So we can go to save backup. This is in beta, but a cool feature nevertheless, and it allows you to back up your saves to some sort of cloud storage. So I will be enabling Google Drive. That's my, you know, go-to cloud storage platform. We can use Box, Dropbox, you can use Nextcloud or OneDrive. Give the video a thumbs up and a comment if you remember when OneDrive was called SkyDrive, and a further comment if you remember why they changed it from SkyDrive to OneDrive. Okay, and then finally you got Steam ROM Manager. And this is just, you know, what we had before. If you need to, you know, change the settings, or if you feel brave and add in all your thousands of ROMs in the general Steam menus. So another cool thing is the emulators guide, and from here you can select emulator, let's say PCSX2, and from here you can actually, it gives you some, you know, extra information. So let's see if I can focus on it. So it basically shows you some different commands, some hotkeys, and you can do load state, save state, all that sort of stuff, which is pretty darn cool. And you can also click reset configuration. So if you've done something, you can't remember what it is, the console, the emulator's not working properly, just click that. And you can do emulation showcase as well, and this just, you know, just shows you some YouTube videos from the actual, you know, people who created it, and some sponsored people from there as well. I mean, some people that work with them, I should say. And you can uninstall the EmuDeck from here if you really want to. So that's it. I'm gonna close it now, see if I can always a bit awkward using your thumb or your finger. And that's how you set up, EmuDeck on your Steam Deck to play all those different consoles. Obviously there's a lot going on here. If you have any questions, let me know. We have a Discord group, over 8,500 members, fast approaching 10,000. Link in the description. Feel free to post in the comments if you have any questions as well. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button. Again, this video is not condoning piracy. It is for educational purposes only. And obviously some of those BIOS files you will need, those ROMs you will need, we're not providing them, but if you have a Google like PS1 BIOS download, you're gonna get it. So that's it. But if you do have any questions, feel free to post on the Discord group, and I'm sure we can help you out. That's it, and I'll see you in the next emulation video. Enjoy.